At the tip of the aerial, we will grab our aerial rigging bar. We'll insert that in. This will give us a capture point dead center of the tip section of the ladder. Place your pins in so they are in the downward position. Then with our rigging bag designed for the tip, we will grab our 2 orange, yellow webbings and our 2 4-inch pulleys and the carabiners. Everything we need to rig the tip as a high point change of direction is here. You're going to take your yellow webbing and you're simply going to tie a water knot in the end and make one large loop out of your yellow webbing. So Joe has built just a loop. We're now going to cut that in half and make a basket hitch through the eyelet at the end. So we've got 2 strands on one side, 2 strands on the other side, giving us 4 total strands of strength here. It sets that at just about the perfect height so that when the ropes are in line, they will clear the aerial waterway on the way back to the truck. Joe will now take 1 carabiner, place it through, and hang the pulley from that. So again, we'll take that webbing, we'll cut it in half, we'll go over the center, and we're going to go on either side of the pin, splitting it. We clip our carabiner in, and we clip our pulley in. So now we've got redundant pulleys at the tip of the ladder. If you find that doubling up the webbing is too short based upon how high you are extending your ladder, instead of doubling the webbing, just basket hitch right over the top of that same location, and that will gain you a handful more inches for your pulley to hang down below. The only change there is we just simply did a basket hitch, and you could do that on the front as well. So we've rigged the tip. The next place the rope must go, according to Pierce, is this horizontal bar at the end of the bed section. So Justin here has made just a simple loop out of blue webbing. And he's going to wrap this bar until he's out of blue webbing. It's almost like building a tensionless anchor here. So what he's doing is he's just wrapping it and then going back through the loop he made. The benefit of this is as we put pressure on that anchor, it's going to self-tighten itself around that aluminum bar, helping to prevent it from sliding. In this scenario, we are going to raise the patient up out of either a confined space or around a parapet, and then we are going to use the crane to boom them to the ground. So we have moved the MPDs to the base area of the ladder. This is our progress capture. So we can raise the patient up over the parapet and then the MPDs will capture. We have put the ASAPs in place off the becket of the MPD as a secondary failure point in case we've got a failure with the MPD. We might as well just grab these lines. Twin tension system again. Before we raise this aerial high enough, we want to make sure we've got enough rope in the belly here that we're not going to capture them in the MPD. So best practice is just throw a bunch of rope on the ground between the base of the ladder and the tip so we can raise that tip without fear of moving ropes. Grab both of your 300-foot rope bags. We're going to tie them both identically. The end of the rope at the patient end is just going to get a figure 8 on a bite. That will eventually tie into the patient as the secondary attachment point for the patient. Anytime we hang a patient in the air, they are attached to different attachment points. One of them will be the primary, which is just the Stokes basket. The second one is a backup, which will be one of these 2 ropes. So after the figure 8 on a bite at the end, you'll give yourself about a full arm's length of rope and then tie a butterfly. That's a knot that can be pulled both directions. That will be our attachment point to the bridle. We will duplicate this with your other rope. Main and belay both have a butterfly on them. That is going to get clipped into the top of your Stokes bridle. At some point, if that changes to a bear paw, a god ring, whatever you want to call it, we will still attach it to that the same way. The tails of those that both have the figure 8s on a bite, we'll take one more carabiner. We'll just clip it through both of those together, and that will be the secondary attachment point to the patient. Once the patient's loaded in the Stokes, that carabiner right there in Joe's right hand will attach to the patient itself, so they're now secured to the Stokes and to the rigging system. All right, don't forget your tag line on the basket. We've taken our drop rope and we've just run it through the basket, back to itself, and then we put a small knot just so when we pull on this, there's no chance that that's going to feed through and it's going to hold it. One thing to note inside the basket, make sure you run that rope underneath the bridle so that when we weight this system, we're not also capturing the tagline with it. Our haul team now is going to raise this patient up off the roof using standard mechanical advantage. Once the patient is high enough to clear any obstructions, the haul team is going to stop hauling. They're going to disconnect from their far anchor, and the MPDs now, in conjunction with the ASAPs, have got the complete load of the system in line with the aerial. At this point, the aerial operator is going to take over once all ropes have been disconnected from the anchor, and he's going to rotate right Our tagline operator is going to follow, and our MPDs have got the weight. All slack beneath the MPDs. Again, those MPDs are not in an optimum place to operate them, but we don't need to operate them. They're there for an emergency. If we lost power on the aerial, we could put up a little giant, we could operate those MPDs and lower the patient. But our intent here is to boom this patient to the ground using hydraulics with progress capture at the base. At this point, the aerial operator can stop and he can retract in very slowly, because now we will have ropes moving through the system, and it will be lowering the patient slowly to the ground as he booms in, as he retracts his aerial. We want to make sure he does not retract so much that the pulleys come close to the waterway tip.
Watch my tip.
So we've got an operator on the ground who's going to guide him into retraction. Notice as he retracts, the patient is being lowered. We still have capture at the base. Nothing's moving through the base at this point. And once the operator gets him close enough that he feels he can just crane down, we'll lower the patient the rest of the way. So now he's transitioned to a lower. And we can move this aerial in any direction off the rear of the truck because we've captured it at the pedestal. Patient's on the ground. And again, no movement whatsoever through these MPDs during that operation.